NFL Week 13, the week of Thanksgiving. We had some very great games this weekend, including Thanksgiving Day, Sunday, and Monday. So let's jump right into it. NFL Thanksgiving 2022. The Packers beat the Lions 36-17. Another dominant performance for Green Bay on Thanksgiving. They're 2-0 against the Lions on Thanksgiving. Rodgers 27 for 34, 293 through the air, TD and a pick. Also had a rushing touchdown. Aaron Jones went for a monster day, 146 on the ground. Jared Goff threw for 341, 2 TDs and a pick. Swift was good on the ground and through the air. The Lions with another heartbreaking loss. Talk about heartbreaking. The Cowboys beat the Raiders 33-28. The Raiders were driving, had a chance, couldn't clock it in time, and they take the L. Derek Carr threw for 3 TDs on the day, 266 yards. Dak Prescott had a strong day, had a rushing touchdown. Zeke having another strong day on Thanksgiving. Tony Pollard had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to start the game. So you knew this game was going to be interesting from start to finish, and the Cowboys go to 9-3. Final game on Thanksgiving, the Bills beat the Colts 32-14. A nice game out of Josh Allen and company, but the only issue, turnovers. And, of course, Josh Allen went into this game the MVP favorite, but he threw 2 picks in this game, so that might hurt the Bills. Sam Ehlinger threw 3 of them in this game. Johnathan Taylor had 2 rushing TDs. Stephon Diggs also had a nice game for the Bills with 113 receiving yards and a touchdown on the night. Going into the Sunday games, we start with the Battle of the Birds, 24-0, a shutout by the Philadelphia Eagles, who continue to dominate the NFL. They go to 11-1. They'll play the Bengals next week. Jalen Hurts, 242, a TD through the air, had one on the ground as well. Devontae Smith had a touchdown on the air. The Eagles only scored 2 touchdowns, but it didn't matter. I mean, they were standing on business as they dominate the Falcons. Then you have the Chargers, who hold off in a close one against the Commanders. They forced a late fumble on Antonio Gibson, and they held the ball, clocked it for 4 minutes, and got the win. They go back to 500. Justin Herbert, 182, 2 TDs and a pick. Heineke, 190. He looked a lot better as McLaurin had a good day. Brian Robinson also had a touchdown. Both these teams not out of it yet. Chargers currently the last playoff spot in the AFC for the moment. They play the Broncos next week. The Ravens win 17-6. Deshaun Watson got his first start as a Brown, and it was not very pretty at all, and it sucks that it was against the Ravens. He threw for 143, also had a pick. Lamar Jackson looked rough on the day, 207, a TD. Kenyon Drake had a touchdown. The Ravens have looked really iffy. You know, this went from one of the best teams in the NFL to being a really iffy football team, so hopefully they can adjust later in their schedule. But for now, they are 9-3 on top of the North. Upset alert, the Texans beat the Titans 23-17. Case Keenum getting his opportunity as a starter. Davis Mills has not been very impressive for the Texans. Keenum threw for 2 picks, 188 and 2 TDs. Tannehill threw a pick as well. One of them, late. He had a fumble actually late in the game, which costed him the game. And also the Texans would kick the field goal, and the Titans would not have a chance and miss the 4th down. Crucial loss for Tennessee. Houston gets a massive win, though. The Giants, they're trying to turn it around. They win 28-14. Sam Darnold will start the game for the Panthers, and he didn't do too shabby. Had a pick, though, as the Panthers are just trying to figure out if they need to draft a quarterback or they can muscle something out of Sam Darnold. As Daniel Jones did well, though. Breida had a touchdown, and the Giants looked very consistent. So hopefully they can find themselves and kind of look like they were earlier in the season to push them to the playoffs. The Patriots, they win 20-13. Bailey Zappi getting his first win as a starter, and maybe they can stay with them, and that can help New England. Zach Wilson, though, in his first game back from injury, didn't do too bad. Had a fumble, which really costed the Jets. That led to a Patriots scoring drive. In fact, it was the Ramondre Stevenson touchdown. As no passing touchdowns, though, but Bailey Zappi, perfect game management, and it helped New England get the win. They're now 4-9. Jets dropped to 5-8. Buccaneers, they beat the Bears 29-20 in Soldier Field. They were up 29-14. Chicago, they scored 6, but it wasn't enough. They couldn't really find anything in the second half, especially Justin Fields, 208, a TD and an interception. Tom Brady threw for 2 TDs on the day. Tampa Bay, they looked rough. I mean, they still don't look great, but they're 7-5 on top of the division, pulling away. And looking to get back to the playoffs. As so far, Tom Brady trying not to have one of the worst records in his career. America's Game of the Week on Fox. Bengals win at 28-23 in Minnesota, beating the Vikings. 4 TDs from Joe Burrow, one of them to Jamar Chase. Kirk Cousins threw a TD and an interception. The Vikings, they have not been able to win lately. Their last 4 games, they're just 1-3, which is very concerning, losing to Dallas. Then, that record's actually wrong. They're actually 8-4. So they've lost their last 3 games. They've got to figure out something. They play the Lions next week. The 49ers, they get another win, 35-21. They beat the Cardinals in Santa Clara. Brock Purdy looking impressive again. Got that win Monday against the Chargers. He's now 2-0 as a starter. 223 TDs. McCaffrey, a nice day. Charvarius Ward had a pick 6 on Kyler Murray, who turned the ball over twice through the air. D-Hop had a touchdown, but the Cardinals, this was a playoff team a year ago. They won 4 in a row, but they're starting to go back on that losing streak. Kansas City, they beat the Broncos 24-10 in their first matchup of the season, so a solid win for the Chiefs. Mahomes threw a pick, wasn't really his fault, got tipped up in the air. Kelsey, 115 receiving yards. Russell Wilson had 2 interceptions on the day, and this Broncos offense, they have looked terrible all season long, and they are just looking for wins that are going to help them drive later in the season. They've got most of their rivals in their last couple of games. Close game here, the Seahawks and the Saints. It came down to a last-second 4th down. The Seahawks couldn't convert, and New Orleans gets the job done. Geno threw for 311. Andy Dalton, the game of his life, 425 yards through the air. Raheem Shaheed had 162 of them and 2 TDs for the rookie. He went off. Olave also had a big day. His stats weren't on there, but the Saints, they're 2 games behind Tampa Bay, and they play them next week. The Steelers on Sunday night, they beat the Rams 20-14. Kenny Pickett did indeed play through that ankle that he suffered last week. He threw for 188, TD and a pick. Harris had a touchdown for the Steelers. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown for the Rams. Stafford played better than Pickett, but the issue were turnovers. The Rams had 2 to the Steelers 1, and the Steelers were able to capitalize. Their 5-7. Rams fall to 5-7, starting to slip back for the defending champs. Monday Night Football, the Battle of Florida. The Dolphins win 35-28 in a shootout. The Jags were on a winning streak. They beat Kansas City, Seattle, and Minnesota, but they lose to Miami. Tagovailoa threw for 3 TDs. Jalen Waddle for 2 of them. Trevor Lawrence went off as well. ETN had 2 rushing touchdowns. This was just a back-and-forth affair. No turnovers in this game, but the Dolphins go to 9-4 going into their bye. Jacksonville falls to 6-6, but they still lead their division, as you can see there. Buffalo and Kansas City still on top of the AFC. Baltimore sitting there top of the North at 9-3. Dolphins at 9-4. Cincy at 8-4. Chargers at 6-6. They're currently the last playoff seed. Titans, Steelers, Jets, Raiders, all right there in the mix. Really, everyone in the AFC still has a chance. Theologically, though, Broncos and Texans are pretty much out of it. NFC, Philly still at 11-1. Vikings at record's wrong. They're 8-4. So but they're still in second. 49ers 8-4. Bucks at 7-5, the division leaders. Cowboys 9-3, looking strong. Seattle up there, looking good. And the Giants have the tiebreaker over the Packers. Falcons in the mix. Lions, Rams, Saints, Commanders, all back there, along with the Cardinals that still got a chance for the playoffs. This is ASC signing off.